And once again, not right on time, but we're here, right? Welcome to another Money Mondays. You guys jumping in the chat. I appreciate you guys. Last minute stuff, just making sure I can see you guys chat like I've been trying to do lately, building this out, building this out, building this out. And of course, I wait till last minute to do a lot of these things because I end up getting caught up trying to do clever things everywhere else. But here we are. So as I wait for a couple of stuff to boot up, I'm just jump in like we did back in the day. MacTech, what's going on? Marissa, jump in the chat. Appreciate you guys for being here. You regulars, you guys mean the absolute world to me. We're here to talk money today, right? We all love Money Mondays. Make sure everyone can hear me clearly. I think that sounds good on my end. And boom, boom, boom. Okay. We should be up and good to go. So yeah, shout out to you guys that showed up yesterday for subscriber Sundays. Those are always fun. You know, we try to do more of those where we can joke, laugh, do all the good things, all the happy-go-lucky. That's a time for us just to kind of connect, withdraw, relax, and not so much stress about everything else that's going on because it's just stressful. And money can be stressful. So today we're going to talk about, again, Money Mondays are really about the money mindset of trying to change the way you look at money. Not so much where, especially when you grow up without it, you become very much, I don't want to say scared of it, but you become, you more tend to hoard it. You don't want money to do what it's supposed to do. All right. Go out, put on its big boy pants and big girl pants or pantsuit. We don't judge. And it's supposed to go out there and work for you. Rather, the way we see it now, often we get so afraid, we get so scared, we get so worried about it. So we end up hoarding what little of it that we have. So we end up in a place where we're thinking, damn, it's gone. I'll never see it again. So you become sort of flustered and worried about it. And you don't really do what you should be doing with your money. That's a natural thing. So I don't want people to, sit there and sort of, frustrate themselves with that fact. It's one of those things that when you start, and hopefully you start getting more money, you start, changing your mindset, you realize that that money is supposed to go out and work. It's supposed to go out there and go to work. One of the biggest realizations I had to hit was that very thing. I was worried. The first time you turn over a bunch of money, it's supposed to go out there and do work for you. Like you end up being paid for what you might have to do. That's how we get in your regular W-2 job. As you move up, as you go from being a frontline worker, a peon, right? When I was in McDonald's and I'm out there at the register, I'm getting paid for what I'm doing right there. Rather than the supervisor and the general manager, franchise owners, you start getting paid for the decisions that you make. And that's often where you want to find yourself, the places where you're making decisions. But this is how you move just in terms of the W-2 salaried positions. When you start, your money is supposed to be used to help create passive. It's supposed to work in the background while, you do whatever else you want to do. You think about it when sometimes where we mistakenly think that real estate is passive money, that it's simply just going to be there, I go to sleep and I'm getting paid. Part of that sounds good, but in reality, there's another aspect of it that what ends up happening with real estate is that, yeah, you're going to have to make active decisions, but you're on the right path to passive income. One of the most passive ways you can actually make money is going to be, say, the stock market. Right? You will probably end up stressing yourself again and again and again and again, but this is the unsexy part of it. This is the way it actually ends up being done on the long-term sort of scale. And when we're looking for solutions right now, often we find ourselves in these scenarios where we get scammed because we wanted quick solutions. And that's the easiest thing for people to take advantage of. You wanted a quick, solution to your money problem today. You want that Ferrari, that new ugly Ferrari. You want that, but you don't have this. You have a McDonald's salary. So here comes someone playing at those sort of fears for you. And then I can get you that. And I simply rob you of everything you've ever had. You see a lot of it happen in things like the Tinder swindler. where it first starts with, they call it pig butchering scams, or romance scams, and we're going to cover two instances of that. And it seems simple because some of the most egregious cases are when they're attacking the elderly, when you're convincing them to part with the money that took them decades to build. Yeah, part of it, it becomes easy to scam them because they're not up on technology. So if you think you're in a relationship with Brad Pitt, and then all of a sudden, Brad Pitt saying, I was in an accident. Here's a picture of me in a bed, and it's Brad Pitt's face, and he says, for whatever reason, I need X amount of money, help me pay these bills to get out of here. I just need an Apple gift cards, and you go ahead and you send it. So that becomes part of the thing we see with the elder community. And unfortunately, when you could look at it now today, we're becoming the elderly community. When we are not up on what AI can do, what the AI tools out there are doing, it's going to be the next wave that helps people get scammed. Because one of the easiest things people always did, if you think someone isn't who they say they are, in a lot of these scams, when people try to, just like Catfish, just like when people try to connect with them, oh, my phone is broken. My front facing camera is broken. I can't FaceTime you. I can't get on WhatsApp. I can't do all these things. I can't even call you. Now we see through those. So the next thing is, yes, I can call you, but I'm using AI to digitally change my face. That technology is here and it's readily available. So we have to go back to the times when we just met each other in person and did our dirt there like that. So one of the things I was doing today, and I encourage everyone here to do that whenever they have a chance. Guys, what's going on? Glad you made it. I know because the Knicks aren't playing today, but one of the things I always encourage people to do is, sit down with your finances, right? Sit down, go over your finances and see where you stand. And then back in the day, you needed, right? You didn't have the information. You weren't well versed in it. So what did you have to do? You'd have to, find a financial advisor, someone that would say, I'll give you all the tools you need, but really was out there working for commission and making sure they could line their pockets. There's other things you can do now. While we have AI right in front of us, you should turn it to your advantage. Now, AI is not going to don't use it to say, pick me stocks, and it's not there. And then even if it picks something bad for you, you've got no recourse whatsoever. But to get a rough idea, or better than rough idea, of where you stand with your finances, it's not bad to use that and say, I generally have this, and this. What would be the likely outcome? Let it do the math for you. Instead of you trying to, do the math on compound interest, you picking different ETFs, no. Let it do that for you and say, project this out 5, 10, 15 years, whatever retirement strategy looks like for you. This is not a bad idea, but we want you to use these things to get rough ideas and to start honing into a financial future that makes sense for you. Because, like we all understand, the earlier you start, the better off you'll be. The earlier you start, the ease in that journey. If you right now, I think they revised what you would need for retirement to something, say like $1.4 million in retirement. Now, this, we understand. It sounds fantastic. Sounds okay, great. That's that's what we need. That's what we need. But in reality, a lot of us see, the things that look a lot different. We'll go over this really, really quick. I don't know if it's big enough for you guys to see, but it's essentially showing you what the retirement numbers look like right now for most of America, right? And this is a bit, could be a bit of a sobering fact. So just by the age, right, 35 to 44, with a lot of us find ourselves in that space, it's just under 50K, right? Remember, we want people to have, we're telling people you should be at 1.4 million. We're telling per person, right? We're not saying you're the man, right? And you retired your family, right? You retire your family, so everyone's just chilling. Everyone's good. No. It's you just by yourself, not for you and your wife, potentially, right? That this is just where the money is at, where it's not at. 55 to 64, or 45 to 54, we go to maybe 120, 125K is what people have saved up. That's the people that you're looking ahead of you right now that are getting ready to retire in a couple of years. This should be, kind of a concern. Again, now we get 55 to 64. Now this number is closer, right? It's closer. It's about 175, 174, around there. And the 65 to 74, 200K. So this is all, right? This is the median for the United States. So it's not something where I want you to feel so sad about and just jump off jump off the bridge. But you do have younger people, especially you have some millennials looking to say, I'll never hit that number, that 1.4 million, so I'm not even going to save now. So it's just like, okay, whatever. Well, again, it's one of those things where it's not a pretty solution. It's not a great thing that we can just say, well, we can just do this and we'll be fine. The truth is, it's going to take some work. The truth is, this is why financial literacy is important, because in order for you to hit that mark, if you started saving when you were younger, or better yet, you started a savings account for someone that was brand new to this planet, you'd have to save something like $26 a month for them. That's all you would have to put into whatever account, whatever retirement vehicle for them, $26 a month. And by the time they were ready to retire, it'd be over $2 million. So $26 a month sounds very doable for most of us. But when you're thinking about, oh, you can't go back. You can't go back to fix any of this. Most of us, to get that number today, we had zero savings and we're in our 40s. We'd have to be saving something like $1,500 a month and hoping for the prime best years at 8%, return every year. Right? And then if you wait another 10 years, that jumps up to like 2,500. So it exponentially becomes harder and harder for you to do this, because compound interest is going to be your best friend. There's really nothing you can do, about that. Nothing you can do around that. Compound interest is going to be the thing. And right now, despite everything that's going on, and you can feel like the market is inflated, but this may be time for you to actually sit back and take advantage of it and have your money out there working for you.
So the stock market just hit record highs again. The S&P 500 closed out at over 7,500 yesterday, and the Dow hit 50,000 for the first time ever. And a significant portion of the people watching this video right now are not participating in any of it. And I don't say that to shame anyone. I say it because the wealth gap in this country is largely a stock market participation gap. And people don't really talk about that when they talk about like upper class, upper middle class, lower class. Like, what does that actually mean? Like, of course, people that are wealthy or upper middle class, like, have more cash, but like, it's really about their investments and their participation in the stock market versus not. So
Right. It's about you have more cash because you're making more money. But a lot of people's money, when we look at the ultra rich or the wealthy or the upper class, a lot of their money is tied up in doing things. No one that's that wealthy really has that money just in cash sitting maybe under the mattress or in a regular checking account. It's usually tied up in some investment vehicle. So when we talk about net worth, when we talk about wealth, we often have to talk about what's liquid, right? What money you can go out and touch. And if you are one of these people that are a millionaire, there's a lot of millionaires in the United States, but that money is liquid, you're probably doing something incorrect. That money should be in some place working for you, because at that point in time, compound interest becomes your best friend. If you have $1 million in the stock market and it averages 8% that year, it's $80,000, right? That's phenomenal, right? That's phenomenal. You got that money just because that money is deployed. There's people that would love to make that. That's $30,000 more than the average Black person makes in the United States. But realistically, a lot of those people's money is currently deployed in retirement vehicles, maybe in real estate, in places where their money is actually making money, where you would have very minimum amount of money in actual, that's liquid in your checking account, in your savings account, that's easily touched about and accessible to you. Now, of course, these metrics changes, once you get to the higher end portion of things, then it just becomes silly, becomes different. It's a different story altogether. But for, for the rest of us here, once you do get yourself some money, once you handle some money, yeah, it should be deployed in the proper avenues where it should be. This is unsexy, right? Right? I know it's unsexy, all of it, but this is the metric in which you are going to actually make yourself rich. Right? And rich again is a definition that a lot of us have to define for ourselves, but is genuinely defined by society. One of the conversations I had a couple weeks ago with a coworker, and he was saying, hey, he didn't want to be rich because he associated being rich with being snobby, being awful, being a terrible person. I said, no, the way I define it versus you define it, but we're here because we want to create a series of options for ourselves, especially as we get older. I was just on the phone with our friend Mark, and we were talking just about that very thing. That one lady, she was in New York in the '90s, and she had something like $9 million in her account. She died. She had no one. It went to no one because she had no family. But you would never know. Also, you don't want to get that age where you have a bunch of wealth, but you don't have the health to do anything about it. So we have to find this balance between the two, in which you're enjoying yourself today, but you're not being one of those people that's saying, "Oh, f all my responsibilities. I'm just going to spend and enjoy my backpack through Europe and whatnot, and then I'll figure it out later." There has to be a happy medium in how you differentiate and say, "I'm going to build my wealth today, but I'm also going to stop, smell the roses, enjoy parts of my life." But back to what she's saying, a lot of it is, yeah, we're not invested in the market. And I know the common refrain is, you don't have the money. I don't have the ability to do so. It's one of those things that you never really seem to get a chance to catch up. Well, one, we weren't instilled with this idea when we were younger, especially black people. We constantly live vicariously through others and then in competition with others. And it doesn't matter that we're in the same community, that they're just as destitute as we are. I got to make sure I look better than him. So my money goes more into goods, services, luxury goods, looking the part. When we look at how long money circulates in the black community, it's very, very, very short, very short. So not only are we not supporting each other, and we'll branch off to that in a second, or circling that money back into people with stores, grocery stores. We don't have these things, so a lot of money goes sort of out. So us as a community kind of stays right in the same place. Now, I'm also not a fan of yeah, saving money wise. Saving money is wise, but investing is where you get the profit. Invested is when you wake up and you say, "What happened today?" Oh, money was made. We talked about before that magical six figure 100,000 is that when you start at least psychologically seeing real growth in the market has a phenomenal day. You've got $1,000 in there. You maybe made $5. Okay, cool. Yeah, awesome. But if you had 100,000, yeah, maybe you made 5,000. Now to you understand that's a lot of money. Five maybe they might seem it, but you know, by the numbers percentage wise, it's the same. So that's why the race is always saying the first 100,000 is hard. Forget about the first million. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the first 100,000 is hard. You get there, and then compound interest has a time to actually do the work. But there becomes factors that stop you from getting there. And like she was saying, one of those factors is just not participating in the market.
The people who are getting wealthier right now are not necessarily working harder or not even necessarily earning more. I mean, a lot of them are, but there's plenty of people who aren't. They are people who have money in the market and they're watching it grow while they sleep. Here is what record highs actually mean for someone who's not yet invested. It means every day you wait, it costs more to get in than yesterday. Not dramatically more, but more. And the people who were in the market 5 or 10 years ago are sitting on gains that are genuinely life changing. The most common response to a record high market is to wait for it to drop before getting in. And that does feel rational and I agree that like when things drop significantly, a lot of people panic about that. But what you really should look at it is like a sale. Like if you're not invested, that's a great time to buy when things drop, right? But waiting, is actually one of the most costly financial behaviors that exists because the market hits record highs consistently throughout history, and waiting for the perfect entry point just means most people wait forever. And again, time is your friend when it comes to investing. It's more important than amount invested. I'll say that till the end of time. The second best time to start investing was yesterday, and the
So, okay, we hear this a lot, and this is great information, right? We want to make sure that you're actually in the game. You got to be in the game, right? We become so accustomed, or we're dealing with our own fear. So we're very afraid of losing the money because we're coming from a very scarce mentality. I want to keep this money here. This is my fortress. Right? This is my castle right here. You see it in that account and you think that's mine. As long as the money doesn't go out, this is mine. It should never deplete. But that's because we don't understand inflation. We don't understand what actual banks do with our money. That every year, depending on whatever the percentage of inflation is, you are losing 2-3% of your money just by sitting in an account that does nothing for you. A regular savings, a regular checking, it does nothing for you. 0.01%, increase doesn't do anything. So you keep that money there over time, it just becomes worth less, 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 less. So, like she's saying, well, put your money in the market. Well, when's a good time? Well, this is why we do something called dollar cost averaging. We want to give you actionable stuff that you can actually do. Dollar cost averaging, you did the math. You got to play, you're behind the ball. So, all right, I'm going to be putting in $500 a month into the market. But when do I put it in? Don't care. Every month you put in this amount. Okay. Just schedule it, right? Just schedule it. You're going to buy this and this and that's it. Set it and forget it. Set it and forget it. This is probably one, better for your psyche. Two, more advantageous than you trying to play day trader, stockbroker while you have your own job. Like clockwork, this is supposed to happen. At this point in time, you buy this, you purchase this. This is what happens. Every month, you buy this, right? Every month for me, I know I have to buy 4 ETFs, 4 different ETFs. And that money is already set aside saying 800 goes to this, 700 goes to this, 300 goes to this, 200 goes to this, something like that. And then you just, hey, it's the 1st, the 15th, whatever day is set, you buy. Now, you could be a little bit compulsive, and I simply look at the market. I look at those ETFs that I have, that I own, and I say, is it a red day? Yeah. Okay, let's buy today. Let's just buy today. So, the stock market fluctuates. So you can just say, okay, we just buy today. I just know per month I have to purchase this. That's it. When I purchase it during the month is not as important as you purchase it during that month. Because now we're widening that scale and saying, you're on a 10-year journey that you have set out for this. There's a 10-year and then there's like a 15-year. Just from where I am right now with all the retirements or all the money together, I want to have these different outlooks of what a future would look like. And you just sit there and you say, okay, this is what I have to do. Moving on. Now, this is now money that you've made. Depending how you made it, you could have your own real estate business. You can have passive income coming from someone else that you're throwing into this, or it could just be your W-2 job because you budgeted and you're living on your means. Cool. That's the idea. That's the goal where you want to find yourself. And then it gets unsexy. Then it just gets quiet. Then it's just rinse and repeat over time. And then you look up, 2 years have passed. You look up, 3 years have passed. You look up, and now you're looking down the hill towards retirement, and you're starting to get a shape of what it actually looks like. When you don't attack these, when you don't let time, right? When you don't give time for this actual cake, to bake, what ends up happening is you kind of move in fear. Don't know what's happening in your money. You kind of just living off hopes and dreams, and maybe it'll be all right. Hopefully it'll be all right. But in reality, you probably not. Whenever you take your eye off money, it goes elsewhere. Every time you take your eye off money, it goes elsewhere. By elsewhere, you spent it. I knew back when, when we all had cash in our pocket, cash would burn a hole in my pocket immediately. Didn't matter how much it was. Coins, hold my pocket. So one of the first things I had to do is not have cash in my pocket. Took out exactly what I needed to pay for something. That's it. Otherwise, I was good for it. But if I had to march myself all the way to the ATM, which is about 6 blocks from where I lived in Queens, then I just leave it and say, no, you don't really need that. This is before, most places took credit cards or debit cards for every and everything. So you needed cash. You had to go to ATM. And you're not going to pay the fee going to someone else's ATM. You're going to go to your bank. I was about 6 blocks away. So most of the time, that solved a lot of my issues. I just don't have the cash. But today, we've created so many different ways to separate you from your money. That's why credit card debt is a problem. That's why Klarna is a problem. Whatever we can do to separate you from money, we've done it. We've taken care of it. Congratulations. We've got a method for it. We've got a way to make you more and more broke. And we have ways to make it more and more appealing for you to be broke. That's all we do here. Now it's incumbent upon you to say and look and say, damn, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be in a position where I have problems that I have no solution for. And solutions are sometimes you pile these things together, right? Duct tape. When you see duct tape on the plane, that speed tape, it's not an answer. It's a solution. Right? It won't solve your biggest problem. It'll get you to where next week where you can get paid and probably solve this properly. We got a bunch of solutions to get some stuff together. One of those solutions today, when we look at people complaining about the way the economy is, one of those solutions too is you need to form a community. Oh, this would be a smooth, like little segue into whatever product like I was sponsored by. But we don't have any sponsors. But this is when you start leaning into the collective. You start leaning the community. But part of the problem is we don't really have one. So you're kind of left to your own vices, and you have to look and start cutting away at real things that you think are necessities. Spotify, Netflix, right? Your high speed internet. You have to start paring down. The pride you have at having one of the major phone carriers. Maybe now you need to be in Mint Mobile. Maybe now you need to be in Boost. Everything starts to matter. Now maybe you need to be selling things on whatever, eBay, whatever alternative is for that. You have to get down to the nitty gritty, and it's not sexy. But right now, so many of us end up being victims to an ever changing economy that really never seems to change in our favor. So again, the solutions are going to be unsexy. The solutions, especially if you're young enough, especially if you're sometimes some of these things become easier for guys to do. Just say, yo, you need roommates. And I know it feels like taking a step back from you living by yourself, you having your own things, your own way of moving. But sometimes that means the ugly part of it. You need help. You need assistance. That's why I see more people moving back home. Well, if you have a back home to go to, that's great. Swallow the pride and get there. Right? Ignore if you have boomer parents telling you it's because you buy Starbucks all the time. But understanding that, yeah, the time that you're back home is time for you to reset, grind, and find a way to actually deal with what went wrong. And sometimes what went wrong is not the economy. Sometimes what went wrong is your own spending, the way you were moving. So one of the things we see when we talk about your retirement, when we talk about you having your money together, one of the things when you out shopping and you have your own debt, your own issues, it becomes easy to look at your retirement account and say, why can't I should just be able to take money from that and pay off, some of my loans. But remember, we say that road to that 100,000, that's one of the longest, most important roads that you can actually start your journey on, because compound interest becomes psychologically visible to you. You start to see real increases, like the woman was saying. These people that already been into this game, they're 4 or 5 years deep in this game, they're in a better position than you are. One of the easiest ways to distract yourself is by pulling money from those accounts. And when you're in hard times, it seems like a very easy, very simple solution. This is why you absolutely should be doing something like this.
because what's going on in today is causing you financial hardship. Taking money out your 401k does not make you financially illiterate. Don't let nobody tell you that. Come on and sip a little tea with Auntie. Let's talk about it. Your 401k is set up for your retirement, but you think about it. In this day and time, if the cost of gas, the cost of groceries, or anything else is costing you financial hardship, why not utilize your own money? Now, a hardship, I have to break this down, is when you are going through hard times. Something unforeseen happened, and you now need to pull money out your 401k to place yourself in a better position. That means to permanently take your money out your 401k. It is not advised for you to permanently take no money out, but there's a difference. There's something that you call a 401k loan, which, depending on where you work, you can take multiple of those loans out a year. What is a 401k loan? You take a loan out for the amount that you need to relieve yourself of some troubling times that you may be having, and you pay yourself back per paycheck. For an example, you need $1,000 today. You don't want to have to borrow nothing from nobody or borrow from a loan company to where it's going to put extra money coming out your paycheck every time. Big old amount. You got to pay a big amount back. Payday loan, you got to pay the whole amount back, or you got to pay $300 and some dollars back every time you get your paycheck. No, no, no. Utilize that 401k loan to where you can break it down on how many payments you want to pay. Say you want to stretch it over 24-month period to where you ain't got no but $23 coming out your paycheck every time. $23 is better than that $300 and some dollars having to pay it all back at one time. And then the catch 22 is you're not paying nobody else back.
So that sounds good, right? But this becomes when we're talking about if you have falling in financial hardship, and we know there's times when you're going to have to take the loan. Financial real emergencies, real hardship. $1,000 is not a hardship. You not budgeting properly is not a hardship. You deciding you want to go on a cruise, you want to go on a Carnival cruise and fight and twerk, that's not a time to take out for your 401k. Now, we want to stress this. We want to talk about this because we're talking. It's about habits. It's about having the proper mindset and you using your money in the proper ways. When you get into the habit of dipping into this like it's just another accessible account, this is what keeps those accounts nowhere near where the projection should be for your retirement. Why you only have $200,000 in your account and you're actually past retirement is because things like this. Yes, there's other reasons why, in terms of not making enough money, not putting money into the actual market, not actually meeting the match, whatever your company actually what their setup is for their 401k. But one of the biggest detriments is simply pulling money out of there. Because remember that 100k is the magical number. Now it gets down to the point where this money has to be deployed in the market, making itself work. You start removing money from that and telling yourself, I'm paying myself back. But having 100,000 in there versus now it's 80. Now, how long is it going to take you to get back to that? Replace that 20? Oh, you've got it planned out. It's going to take you 24 months. So 2 years, you shaved off 2 years of compound interest. Hopefully it's for something that's actual an emergency, not because your poor habits saw you into debt once again. Now, again, when we're talking about habits, if you get into you become accustomed to doing this, you'll do it again. You'll do it again. And then when it comes time when you're nearing retirement and you look in your account and it has $150,000 in it, now you sort of curious and like, well, what's more important now? All those quote unquote emergencies that kind of happened, or what your financial future is looking like now, especially if you're single and especially if you have no family left. It's just you and what you've been able to accumulate. That's what's supposed to see you down to the end of your life. That's essentially what retirement is. It's now replacing that paycheck that you had all those years that you were working. In 45 years, we had you, by the throat, put in those hours. Now you're supposed to have at least money to get you to, like, if we say the average age for most of us is in the 70s. Well, you need 10 years of income. $100,000 is not going to get you there. Especially for those people that already have $100,000 salaries. So in their normal burn, in their normal expense, it is 100. It is $100,000. So you've got, what, you're going to stress that down to 2 years and then you're tapped, then you're broke. So yes, when you fall on hardships, it sounds good. It sounds phenomenal. It sounds perfect. But in reality, the reality often becomes very different. It's going to take you actually some work, some effort to get there. So when you actually have emergencies, call them actual emergencies. Let them actually be emergencies, not something saying like, hey, I'm not going to make it to retirement anyway, so fuck it. Right? Groceries kicking my butt, so let me just use my retirement account. This is really not the best financial plan that you should have. Is that better than you taking a payday loan? Yeah, absolutely. Is that better than you leaning on high interest credit cards? Maybe. You have to look and say how you go about making these payments, how you go about, how did this emergency actually come to fruition? Is this a true emergency, or is this something that, yeah, I just really wasn't paying attention, or I really wanted to have fun, or I just didn't prioritize these things properly, so here I am in this bind. Right. So listen, now we'll move on to the actual, how people now take that money, take that time that it took you to develop that, to actually find that money. You took 15 years, you've been investing, or at least you've been putting your money into a 401k because your job matched it. Cool. Now you're on the way. Now you meet someone on an app because now you're looking for love. What good is all that money if you're doing it by yourself? You have no one to enjoy it with, or no one that create these experiences, these memories with. So you're on the apps, you find someone that you're dating, and then a lot of times that can go very left very quickly.
This is a warning video for anyone using dating apps, and the story about how I got scammed out of over $60,000 by someone I met on Bumble. It all started a few weeks ago when I was just swiping like normal, and I met a guy that seemed pretty regular. We connected over books and spirituality and our upbringings and just regular topics. And he quickly moved the conversation off of Bumble and began a romantic, what I thought was the beginning of a romantic relationship. We video chatted. However, he claimed to be
right, all normal, right? This is how it's supposed to happen. It's how it's supposed to progress. Bumble, right? We're all good. Maybe she responded, she had to start the chat. She initiated the chat, or recently, maybe he did. All right, let's talk. Kiki, ha ha ha, off the app.
Out of town for work for the next month. So we began just by getting to know each other via phone and text and whatnot. Eventually, he turned the conversation.
Book talks, yeah. Smut talks would have worked. But remember, pay attention, right? He's unavailable physically to actually do any of this, to actually really connect and relate in person, right? That's one of the things you see a lot of in the romance scams. Person's always available to romance you on the phone, to talk, or sometimes just to text, all that. But when it comes down to meeting up physically, that becomes a different story.
Towards investing. And at that point, he asked me if I had ever heard of short-term Bitcoin trading, which I had not. He then positioned himself as someone who knew a lot about finances and claimed to have started a couple of companies. So as a person who's interested in finance, I was interested in learning more.
So are you interested in finance, or are you interested in financially enriching your pockets? Because if you haven't heard of short-term Bitcoin, why don't you look it up? Right? Why don't you look it up? And I'm gonna buy and hold something that's volatile and try to day trade that? Okay. Probably not. Probably not. And again, weren't we supposed to be doing on this this romance part? Weren't we supposed to be kiki, ha ha ha, right? Weren't we on that? A lot of us with some sense, right? A lot of us, right, in a come up, yeah. This is the part of American greed where we realize that the guy that ran the pyramid scheme was greedy as well, but also the people that said, this is too good to be true. Let me put more money into it. I want to be rich too. We're all greedy here. But what these people that are setting up these Ponzi schemes, they're not trying to entice you first with the relationships. I'm not trying to entice you first with the feelings. Build the trust and then lower your guard. Make you feel better. Now, some of them get insidious, right? And we're not talking about the movies. But when she said she started romance, yeah, no, didn't mean physically. A lot of these people end up being like, Nigeria. Right? A lot of them end up being Nigeria. So keep that in mind, right? If I'm asking you for your credit card information or your social security, just know I'm going back to my roots.
He directed me to download an app off of the App Store on my iPhone for a legitimate trading site called On Chain. And then through that app, he was able to direct me to a mirror site that was not the same website, but was run by scammers and some sort of criminal organization to take people's money.
We got to be able to admit it, right? Come on now. All right. Download the app, right? Boom. Download the app. Come through. Let's do all this. Let's do it. I'm the expert.
I invested a little bit of money on trades, made some money, was able to withdraw it to my account, at which point I invested significantly more after being.
This is the greedy part, right? This is the greedy part. You invested the money, it worked, and you say, bet this got to be legit. Now let me go all in. Now think about it. If I were running a scam, right? If I was going into and being really, really Nigerian, I'm running a scam like this, a sophisticated scam. What I would do is just this. Hey, download this app, invest like this, right? Yeah, how'd you do something you didn't know? This is the greed when it comes in. This is the American greed when it comes in here. American greed, right? Right? Exactly. It's a test run, right? That's what it ends up being. It's just a test run. Hey, give me $1,000. We're going to invest it. I'm going to show you how it works. Oh, damn. You did it. You made $500. And you say, yeah, I will pull my money out. Take it. Because now when you come back, you got a taste. That's real money, cold money, cash. This got to be. Now you start thinking, now the greed sets in. What if I put in $5,000? Right? If you did that and you made now 1,000, I'm still going with this idea because I'm waiting for big money. And how would I know if you have big money? Well, I'd look at your Bumble account. I look at the things you're interested in. I look at the pictures you posted, the places you may have been, and I say, while this is not a one-to-one correlation, we've got money to actual travel. That's good enough for me. Okay, now we start talking and now I get a better taste, a better feel for it. Okay. College educated. Okay. You got your own place, car. Okay. Let's see what her big money looks like. If I've got disposable cash because I've scammed someone else, I don't mind letting go of a couple $1,000 if that means I can net something much, much, much better. And remember, we've never met.
Pressured by him and seeing and thinking that it was a legitimate trading site. And at that point, I was unable to withdraw my money from the account, and I realized that I had been scammed. There were a lot of other red flags in retrospect, and I will do more videos to kind of give a lot more details about my story. But as of now, what you need to know is just be very, very, very careful of who you match with on any dating site. There are very, very sophisticated scams. Sorry, that's my cat. Very sophisticated scams out there being run with the help of AI as well. This site even had a legitimate customer service component that I talked to several times. So stay safe out there, guys. This is me trying to take my power back, because one thing they try to do is isolate you and shame you into not talking about it. Obviously, I'm very upset. The FBI is involved. The police are involved. It's a huge thing. So yeah, I will post more later, but thank you for sharing this video as much as you possibly can. And I wish someone had warned me like I'm trying to warn you.
We there's been plenty of warnings, right? There's been plenty of warnings. Penicillin, right? That was popular, hella popular on Netflix. This is not a new thing. This is catfishing, right? Yeah, she's yeah, she's cat lady. Remember, you said it, not me. So this is not a new thing. I don't want us to have this understanding that this is just brand new. No, this has been happening for quite a while. Now, you don't want to see people get scammed. You don't want to see people be victimized of this, because you know how long it takes you to actually put a lot of significant money together. But yes, but at some point in time, you have to be aware. Like, yo, no. You know, I could tell she wasn't born and raised in New York, because we naturally suspicious. Like, nah, there's no such thing as a free lunch, right? There's no such thing as a free lunch. We went so far from talking about our budding relationship or planning a date or where we're going to go for our first date to saying, yo, just put the money in, put the money up. This should be a red flag. And then, of course, we get the thing in retrospect. There were a bunch of red flags. Why didn't you listen to them there? Now, one of these, sometimes people make perfect victims, right? She doesn't, the way she's telling the story can tell me a few things about her affect, and she may not have a great group of people around her, or enough people around her telling her, like, girl, this is not really what it is. You may not have that sort of worldly experience, and unfortunately, these people often become victims of stuff like this. That's my point. We've seen so many shows with that. Now that you're saying that these people want you isolated, and you're not isolated. This is a common occurrence. Now, the unfortunate part is what often ends up happening. You can get the police involved, you can get FBI involved, but once a lot of that money is put into account, it transfers, and is overseas now, and there's nothing the FBI can do about it. There's often nothing your bank does about it, because your bank is saying, okay, was that money hacked? Was it taken from your account, or did you withdraw it and put it in there yourself? Yeah. So the bank is there to protect your money, and obviously gives you cheap interest rates, and uses money for its own purposes, its own lending structures and purposes, while cheaping you out on your return on that. Yes. But then also, it's not there to protect your money from you. So when you decided, I'm going to go and take this money out to someone that I've never met, some app that it hasn't been, I don't know anything about, but it was just on the App Store or Google Play Store, whatever, and then now I'm going to send money through that, the bank's going to look and say, those are all decisions you made. You are, for what the bank cares about, for all intents and purposes, you're allowed to take your money out and buy as much cocaine as you want. Bank can't stop you. You go to bank, say, and sometimes they'll ask you, what are you drawing this money for? Remember, it's my money. It's my money. Whatever I want, right? I can lie to you, and you can just write it down because it's over $10,000. You need to trace that. Cool. I'm going to lie to you. I'm going to take my money. I'm going to buy cocaine. There's nothing you can do to stop me from doing that. I've had to withdraw money sometimes because one transaction I was trying to buy a place, trying to buy a rental. So I go to Capital One. I'm blowing them up. Go to Capital One, and they do withdraw maybe like, I forgot what it was, something over 20 grand. And they're like, no. It's like, why? Well, because usually, now I think it was something like, it was like 40 grand. So they're like, no, you have to call ahead for this amount. You have to call ahead and let us know that you're going to take this money out, because you want to make sure you have that money on hand. Because again, the bank is taking your money and deploying it elsewhere. Great. Good for you. Also know, again, this is New York. I don't trust any of you, right? The minute I take out that 40 grand and I walk out, there goes your guys in the back. It's what I would do if I was a crook, I was a criminal, if I was working out just an unshady teller making above minimum wage in New York. This is what I would do. Guy come in and he's about to withdraw a bunch of cash. He's telling us where, when, what time, his name. We got all that information. So as soon as he takes that, you get him either from here to his car or follow him to his home. Take the money. No. So I'm here saying, Cool. Listen, we can solve this. Let me wire the money to another account. Free. Well, we can't do that. We can't let you get a free wire. Great. So go ahead and back and run me my money. Let me get a manager. You got a manager, and guess what? I still insist. You either can remove that and give me my money, and I can go about my business today, now, before I get set up by someone else, or you can give me a free wire. I've solved this thing for you. They were not happy with that, but I walked out with a stack of cash and then went to Chase, deposit that, and then wired that in one day. I was just trying to save money by not having multiple wires go out. But you learn something, and then you, of course, you get on some list. So in these cases, the bank can't stop you from deciding this is what you want to do with your money. No one can. It's up to you. So when you decide, I'm going to give this money to some other person somewhere, that's it. It's gone. Getting the FBI involved doesn't really help. You see that in a lot of the results from a lot of these people that have been scammed. Sometimes that money goes to locally. It's sent to someone locally in the country, and that person sends it out elsewhere. And again, by then, the money's gone. And there's no current avenue or agency set up to, for restitution that says, hey, we went out there, we found your money, here it is. No, it's not that. There's nothing for that. We just look at you and we say, next time don't do that. But it may have been 40,000, 50,000, 60,000. It might have been a large sum of money that you gave up and you got caught up in some scam. We have nothing for you. Absolutely nothing for you. So the best thing to do, oddly enough, in this case, is watch Netflix. Watch all these documentaries about people being scammed for money. Just watch it. Right? Even Dateline has a couple episodes about this guy that was a doctor, also a Marine, also he 3 different things. Right? He was doing 3 different scamming women. Taking money from one that he took from one, starting to have another relationship all over here. Right? Right. Exactly. That's the ignorance tax. That's the cost of tuition. You got 2 degrees. One of them you'll never melt. You'll never show that. But that's the game. Right? Now, of course, listen. When a lot of this makes Netflix, when it makes the shows, it's usually because you have a sympathetic victim. It's a woman, right? It's a pretty woman. She got scammed. How could this happen? The world is terrible. Bad man, right? We're very used to bad men. He did this. He's awful. He's the worst thing in the world. But men get scammed too. And men probably easier to get scammed.
I am a victim of pig butchering or romance scam. Yes, I lost over $100,000 on a scam. I thought it was an investment opportunity, but I got tricked into it. Here's what happened. I worked a lot, I saved a lot of money. I tried to travel, but I felt lonely for the most part. And so I was thinking I want to find a partner. So that's when I tried online dating, Hinge and Tinder. And on Tinder, I matched this one person. So we only chatted a little bit, and then for some reason, the person asked for my phone number to transfer me into WhatsApp. And so we continued to get to know.
All right. Let's take a good look here. Right? Let's take a good look here. What are the rules of thumb, right, that I like to live by? As a man, right? If you randomly get solicited, yeah, he does look colorful. He does look colorful, right? But these are the people that get it because they are genuinely looking to be happy. You make yourself an easy victim because you're allowing your defenses to go down with the thought that suddenly you can fill that void. But again, this is maybe a New York thing, but as a man, if I ever get solicited by a woman, I always think it's a scam. Always. A woman comes and says, "You're so handsome." All right, where the cameras at? Right? What's the play? What's supposed to happen? But a very common thing that you see all the time that happens is you'll go from talking on whatever designated app that it feels real for, right? It feels like you're in Bumble, you're in Tinder, you're in Hinge, you're in Raya, whatever you're on. Now they say, let's move over to WhatsApp. It's encrypted, right? We like WhatsApp. Right? This is the scammer's choice. WhatsApp's always going to be the one.
Know each other more from there. We talked about, you know, future plans and vacations, that kind of thing. And then as I gained more trust and fall in love with this person, she introduced me to cryptocurrency, and we started in a small amount. Basically, I bought real cryptocurrency on crypto.com, but then that later gets transferred into the third-party website, which I thought was legit. You know, I saw impressive gains. I mean, huge, more than double amount of growth. And
American greed part right here, right? That's all it is. It's American greed part of it right here. I'm easy. It's easy to play you when I know you all get moved by the same set of instruments. Wealth, doubling your money for doing absolutely nothing. This is sexy. When we talk about wealth growth, when we talk about you actual compound interest, it's boring. Right? It's boring. It takes forever. There's only so many shortcuts you can take. There's only so many ways you can skin a cat. There's only so many ways you can make something from nothing. One of the easiest things we heard all the time was you can get into real estate with use other people's money. You don't need any money to get into real estate. What? What? Like, what are you talking about? How? Right? There's going to be money used at some point in time, and I know it sucks. Right? I know you don't like hearing that. I don't know what it is, right? It could be someone else's money used on behalf that you still have to pay them back at a higher interest rate and accelerated repayment schedule. You're borrowing someone else's money, but again, you fail to pay that back, then you have your own issues with that person. But because it sounds good, hey, we know that you're so happy for it, you're so willing to do it, and it's the easiest thing to scam you on. It's the easiest thing to scam you on. Everyone wants money. Everyone's money.
I was amazed by it. I thought it was real. You know, the website looked legit and all of that, but I really missed the fine details of how it was a scam. I didn't do my research. You know, the balances kept getting bigger and bigger, and then until I wanted to withdraw the money, it's like, oh, you can't withdraw, and I have to keep paying those kind of verification and additional taxes. And unfortunately, I fell for that twice, and it took me the third time where I'm like, okay, I realized it was a scam, only because, shout out to fraud and security team of US Bank, they told me that it was a scam, that the wire transfer I was about to do, which is a $20,000 amount, they told me it was a scam. And so,
you know, those people, every time you swipe something, and Chase does this all the time, American Express sometimes, and be like, yo, fraud alert, man, that shit didn't go through, couldn't do it. And then you're there, right? You're there, you get upset. You're like, God damn it. I'm just trying to buy whatever. It's out the blue. It's different. It's weird. Well, you know, sometimes they're actually doing their job, and they can actually help you out. But yeah, the real, you know, one of the things is your money gets locked up in some sort of fund, in some sort of thing. And then you're paying to verify. Why would you ever have to pay to verify?
Now I did my research, and I'm like, yep, this entire thing was a scam. And there you go, guys.
Remember, this is someone he's never met her. Right? He's never met her.
I've fallen in love with that person so bad. Oh my gosh. Looking back at it, it was so stupid. To this day, it hurts so much to me. I mean, it's ridiculous. I can't believe I spent so much money thinking that it was a good investment opportunity. I was going to get rich. And it turns out all of that was too good to be true. It sucks. Oh my gosh. It sucks because I wanted to buy a house. Okay. That was my plan because I had so much money I can afford for a down payment. But that dream is crushed. Man, but if you guys want to help, you can click on my GoFundMe.
Nope. Feel for you, but nope. Right? These are things that, you know, like I said before, it's tuition. You charge that to the game. Right? Charge that to the game. Unfortunately, in this economy, people don't have money to go ahead and fix other people's problems, right? Yeah. Yeah, I can't do it for you, bro. Playboy, I can't do it for you. But it's a great lesson, right? It's a great lesson because one, if we made you whole, would you just fall for the next scam? Right? These are things great. I would, like the first woman did when she's just like, I'm putting it out there so it's not isolated, so more people know about it. Yeah, do that. But you see how right. But you see how, you know, we looked at it, we saw exactly what the play was. If you want to help me, you see how we all said nope, because you could also be scamming us. Right? That's why we're hip to it. We've got to actually do our research and diligence to see, like, yo, is this actually legit? Do you actually need help? Or are you just another person online that's, hey, GoFundMe, help me? We've seen people being robbed from GoFundMe. At least GoFundMe could try to make you whole before that money is dispersed, but in a timely sense. No, I can't. But this is the proper attitude you need to have in order to make sure you don't end up on the next episode of American Greed, right? You don't want to end up in something like that. And it's not us being cruel. It's us. We have to be prudent. We have to understand we're in a different age. Now it's very easy to plug at your heartstrings from a distance to get that ball rolling. But now we get the game. Cool. Don't do that. Great lesson. Thank you for that. We all appreciate that. We'll go forward wiser for the experience. And just know when people that you meet immediately try to stray the conversation somewhere else, start talking about investing, it's a hard no. Immediately. Immediately no. Because unfortunately, the answers to all this are unsexy. They're boring. They take time. They take effort. They take you actually knowing that you can't cheat that part of the game. Yeah, put your money in there, dollar cost average, set it, forget it, do the same thing, rinse and repeat. And then let time do what it's supposed to do. And if the United States is still around by this time for you to retire, you might have something worth, being proud of. That's the game. Right? That's unfortunately that's the game. Yeah. Right. American was the same scammer. Exactly. Same scammer. See, things about American Greed has endings, right? Where someone was brought to justice in some way. Rarely do you have, I've seen one or two episodes of guys like, FBI is still looking for this guy. Guy ran off of millions. Gone. Never seen again. Never to be seen again. There's one lady who ended up poisoning her husband, cashed in on the retirement, a couple millions, and she flew to a non-extradition country. She was hanging out there for a minute. FBI, CIA, they set her up, used her as a tour guide. She flew into another country. Soon she landed, got the braces on her. But this took years. This took years. And then even on the way, when they had her in jail, she had a trial date, she ended up coming there she had to get a new trial date because she was pregnant. And they were like, yo, we see what you're doing. Hey, we see what you're doing. You're still going to be in jail waiting this. Maybe they eventually got her. But a lot of those times, in these cases, down in the trenches with the rest of us, there's no happy ending. There's no, you put in 100K. All right, we're going to make you right. We got you. That's such a sad story. We'll donate. That's not how money, and especially in this economy, that's not how people understand money. It's not how people move with money. So it's not like I have to tell anyone here, everyone got it immediately. This is not what you do with your money. This is not what you do with your money. So again, listen, guys. Thanks for showing up for Money Mondays. Hope we learned something. We always want to eventually grow this out where we can have people call in. They can ask their questions. They can share what they're doing to make themselves some money. We can have a back and forth, a legit back and forth. That's going to be the goal. That's going to be how we kind of make this broader. But If you have any money questions or anything that you want us to cover, let me know. Email is in the description, as always. So the rest of you guys, I will see you on the next one.